You're now listening to Directing Magic with your host, Marquette Jones.
Hello and welcome back to Directing Magic Podcast. This is your host, Marquette Jones, and I am going international today. Woo! I'm a Canadian producer, Amanda, and I don't want to mess up your last name.
It's okay. Everybody does, even me, Verhagen. But I go over to Holland and they tell me I pronounce it wrong. So that's okay.
I love it. Marquette is French, actually, in origin. And so I've had like French people and Haitian people tell me that I pronounce my name wrong. And I'm like, well, my mama said that it's this way. So,
yeah.
Okay. So one more time, say your full name for us.
Amanda Verhagen.
Welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
I'm really excited to have you on the show because, one, because of the Canadian aspect, and I just strangely, I guess it's not that strange, but like Canada is the number 2 country that listens to the show. So I'm like, yes, this solves something for me because I want to, reach out and be supportive to people who are actually listening. So here you are. Thank you so much. So Amanda has a not new, but she has a project called the DEVOUT that is doing really well right now. You have an award ceremony coming up.
Woohoo! Yeah.
Which is the Canadian Screen Awards. How are you feeling about that?
I'm excited. The Canadian Screen Awards, for those who don't know, are kind of like our Golden Globes. So they're our big award ceremony. I've been fighting with DHL all week trying to get my dress for it delivered. So that's been my biggest distraction from the nerves of the award ceremony. But it'll be good. And we're nominated for the John Dunning Discovery Award, which is kind of like the emerging Best Picture. So
nice.
It's not Best Picture, but it's like, you made this amazing film. We can't nominate you for Best Picture because you're not a big studio feature, but you made this great movie for a lower budget, so we're going to award you something, hopefully, anyways. And the cool thing about that award is it comes with a cash prize.
Hey, how about that? I always like cash prizes. Those are awesome.
Right? It's kind of like, they're like, you're an independent filmmaker. We get it. You don't have any money. So
so here you go. So just pay you back for a little bit of the pain, sweat, and tears you put into this project.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, so this is not filmmaking related, but I want to hear about your dress. What are you wearing?
Oh my God.
And listen, I just want to say before you start, like, I know, like, I sound like I'm on, like, E or something like that on the red carpet. But I really love fashion, so I'm actually really interested. So.
Okay. Well, I got a black dress because I figured, I had to go with just in case everybody starts going, time's up on it. Yeah. I just wanted to be prepared. And I ordered it from a designer in Australia that I followed on Instagram.
Wow.
That is like L something Z that I can't pronounce. And it's long sleeve and covers a lot of my body, but it has a lower neckline. So I thought it was very classy and very producer-like because it's that whole thing when you're a female producer where you want to look more business, but I still want to, look like a woman. And I thought about wearing a suit, and I thought that would be, kind of cheeky and cute, but I fell in love with the dress. And it's got a bit of a shimmer to it because I want to look good with all the cameras.
Yes. So shimmers for the cameras and also solid colors.
Yeah. And now that I've said that, a bunch of people are going to Google the awards after, and I'm going to end up in a totally different dress because it's finally going to show up and it's going to be like a doll's dress or something,
It's pretty risky for you to order something from like another country. You haven't tried it on yet?
No. I've been battling all week trying to meet this delivery guy that I think him and I are in this like passive aggressive battle. And he leaves me notes on the window sometime being like, good luck getting this. And I'm like calling DHL and he'll knock on the door and then I'll see him, we'll lock eyes and he'll run away. And I'm like, no. I will get you.
No.
Oh yeah. But I also have a beef with the guy who is like the rake, like lawnmower kind of guy across the street too. My life is a comedy. It's fine.
So tell everybody about the movie, just to change complete subjects.
Yes.
The DEVOUT is
so I produced a movie. I don't just have battles with people in my neighborhood. I produced a movie called The DEVOUT, which is about a Christian father who has a crisis of faith when his 4-year-old daughter is dying of cancer, and he starts to believe. Yeah, very light topic for somebody who is clearly so animated. And he starts to believe that she's a reincarnated astronaut on the Apollo 1 space mission as a way to deal with his grief. And he goes on this journey to find out if she's lived before and if she'll live again. So it's this idea of reincarnation and this balance between his Christian ideals and exploring sort of Buddhism. So it's this really beautiful exploration, and it's about family, and it's about love, and it's just, a really beautiful movie.
That's really nice.
Yeah.
And I like, I don't want to give away the ending, but I like the way it ends.
Oh, thank you. Me too. Yeah. That's kind of what sold me on the script, actually. Yeah.
So speaking of which, how did you come to the project?
So this project was directed and written by someone I actually went to university with, Connor Gaston. He was in the screenwriting program while I was in the theater program, which was kind of on opposite ends of this little fine arts quad at the University of Victoria. So we met when I took the one film class that theater kids were allowed to take, and we all had to vote on a script that we didn't know who wrote it. And there was 2 scripts. And I totally bashed this one script that I thought was terrible, and it turned out to be his. And I said bad things about it in front of him, but somehow he forgave me and told me that he thought we should make a movie together years later. So lesson learned, I should be a lot nicer to people, but they'll forgive me. But we met in that class. So this script
hilarious.
This script was his thesis project. And he, developed it through his master's thesis, and then afterwards brought it to myself and our executive producer, Dan Hogg. And we produced it through Telefilm Canada, which anyone in Canada knows really well. But in the States, I don't think you guys have anything similar, where it's our national funding body where basically we apply and they give us free money to make movies, which is awesome. Kind of insane.
No, it's fantastic. I wish we had something like that here. Yeah. And actually, if I'm not mistaken, didn't they come up with a new rule, like that it had to be 50-50?
Yes.
Gender?
Yeah, 50-50 gender parity, which is amazing. Yes. And they don't fully finance movies. They just give you some money. And they mostly expect you to pay them back.
Okay.
But you don't usually.
Wait, you guys, what does that mean? She's rolling her eyes. I'm like, what does this mean? I feel like I should know.
Well, most movies in Canada, I mean, I'm like putting a big generalization, but most movies in Canada don't make their investment back. And I think most movies in general don't make their investment back, especially in independent film. So they kind of give you the like wink, wink, nudge, please pay us back. But then you don't. So, yeah.
I get it. So it's kind of like if you make a net profit, pay it. Yeah. Which no one does. Like probably Marvel movies don't even make net profit. Theoretically. Okay, awesome. So that's your team. You have your executive producer and your director. And one thing that I always tend to bring like something that I'm working through into the episode. So how did you guys divvy up the work of pre-producing and going into production?
So in terms of going into production, we went into production really quickly on this one because Connor had worked on the script through his thesis. We pretty much just went into production with the script that we already had. So the development process was really quick, and we got financed really quickly with Telefilm. So that whole process was like just incredibly fast.
That's incredibly fast for you.
I think that was like a year, to be honest.
That's not actually fast, but
well,
but it is. No, I mean, I know that it is film world wise, but a year is a long time.
Well, yeah. I mean, stuff I've been working on now, I've had in development for 3-4 years. So like that to me, that's really fast.
It is actually.
But for Dan and I mean, our split between the work is Dan is more focused on accounting and financial and working through contracts and all that kind of stuff. And I'm more focused on crewing and casting and working through all of the logistical aspects of production. Mm-hmm. And then Connor was really working through the schedule and making sure we could actually make our days and being as prepared when we got to the shoot so that we didn't waste any time. Because when we dealt with having a 4-year-old girl on set as one of our lead actors, you can't waste a minute.
Right.
Because she can only work a certain amount of hours a day. And we also have to build in the fact that, we have a 4-year-old girl with cancer. Well, in the script, she has cancer. That means we have to put a bald cap on her. And that's 2 hours of the day that is taken up by that. So he had to be as prepared as possible. And my background as, I originally started out in the film industry as a production coordinator and a production supervisor. It just meant that I was doing all of our logistical work anyways. Mm-hmm. So that's sort of how that naturally ended up dividing. Mm-hmm. And then when we got into post-production, Dan took over post-production and I went into sales, distribution, and all kinds of spreadsheets and researching everybody just because I was super interested in learning how to get better at pre-selling our movie by selling this movie in post, because basically we had gone into this not having sold any rights on it. Mm-hmm. Because we financed it through Telefilm, through Canada Council of the Arts, and some private equity. I wanted to know for the next movie how to do all those pre-sales and do all this research. So, basically I took this as an opportunity. If I'm going to sell this movie now, I can do all this research and so I'm better equipped for next time, basically. Mm-hmm. If that roundabout answer makes any sense.
No, it totally does.
Yeah.
Just curious, how many hours are you allowed to work with a 4-year-old in Canada a day?
I can't remember because we shot it a couple years ago, but I think Olivia, the little girl, she was actually, 5 at the time. So I feel like it was 6 hours.
Oh, okay.
6 or 8. And then that includes travel, which is the scary part. So it's door to door. So if you're shooting somewhere in the middle of nowhere, you have to take that into consideration. Mm-hmm. And it's all under the child labor laws. Mm-hmm. So when I work as a production coordinator with American companies that come into town, they're used to shooting in, in LA or in Atlanta, and they have different laws for the amount of time that you can shoot with a kid, and then they come over here and they've done their budget based on that, and then we're like, no, surprise, child labor laws, we have different hours, and they're like, oh crap. So
what's the biggest difference, would you say, between shooting in Canada versus shooting in the US that people are surprised by, besides the child labor laws?
Your PAs are run by the locations department.
Mm-hmm.
The ADs don't get PAs. People are always really shocked by that. We have something called sandwich time, which is kind of fun, which I guess you guys don't have in the States.
I've never heard of that. What is that?
Right? 3 hours after call, we always have sandwich time where everybody stops and eats a sandwich. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
And do you have lunch after that?
Yeah, we have lunch 3 hours after that. But first we have sandwich time.
Nice.
Yep. We call base camp circus, which gets really confusing because nobody knows what that is. We have things like we call stake beds flat decks. There's little terminology things. Mm-hmm. And I think, we have something called a cable truck, which I think they're now starting to pull into LA, where for all of the, massive seaway that you run for the generators, I guess normally people, pull it out on wheelbarrows. We actually have these massive trucks that are on giant spools that just run along the streets and like spool it out. So anytime a production manager comes down from the States or a producer, they're always like looking at this line item, like, what am I paying for? And we're like, just wait until you see what you save in labor costs. So that's always really interesting. And then, producers who come down are always really surprised at how much lower our budgets are here in terms of independent production as well. Because, a low budget film in Canada is considered, $250,000, and a high budget film is considered $5 million. Like that's kind of the world that we sit in. Whereas then the American productions come over and we're like $20 million. Oh my God. Like,
right.
Like losing it. So that's always the really exciting part too.
And is it lower because of the exchange rate, or is it lower because you don't pay people as much, or lower because you don't have unions, or like why is it lower?
It's lower because of what we're able to finance for Canadian content production. For Canadian independence and Canadian content, part of it is that we just don't have the population and we don't have the audience. The entire population of Canada could basically fit into California. So, who are you going to advertise and like show your content to, and who are you going to, send it out to? So like, what's your audience at that point? And, who are you going to sell it to? We don't have a studio system like they do in the States.
Right.
We don't have, we had Lionsgate. It was originally in Vancouver, and then it became a big American conglomerate. But we don't have, it's originally from North Vancouver. But we don't have the massive studio system, so we don't have the big financing structures that they have over there. So our budgets are a lot lower, and especially when they're coming from public funding, they want to try and make as many projects as possible, as opposed to just financing one project a year with taxpayers' money. They try and, fund 50 projects a year to try and expand that. So,
and because I know people are going to ask, the funding through Telefilm, it has to be Canadian, of course, but how Canadian does it have to be?
Super Canadian. Yeah.
So like the writer, director, producer, they all have to be Canadian? It can't be like just one?
No, it's terrible. I'm sorry.
No, I'm saving you from being reached out to 100 times.
Yeah.
So that person has to be a Canadian citizen as well in order to...
Or PR, like permanent residency does count.
Okay.
So
I moved to Canada.
Yes. Which we will take you guys. Please come. Welcome.
Well, that's kind of on the list right now.
Vancouver and Toronto are great. Just saying. Like, Vancouver gets less snow, but,
No, seriously. How easy is it to become a permanent resident of Canada, just out of curiosity?
I don't know. I have a couple of friends who are doing it who are from Australia, and one got denied and one got accepted. So I don't know. It's, I think it kind of depends on what your background is, and, if you've had any run-ins with the law. Or one friend got denied because she miscounted the amount of days she was on vacation somewhere by one day.
Wow.
So it's really tricky.
Okay.
But as long as you're really accurate with your paperwork, I guess, with anything. But.
Well, I mean, you do know that many people Americans are just kind of investigating, shall we say, other countries right now.
Yes.
Okay. I'll just leave that there.
I don't blame you.
Hey. It's a lot going on over here right now. Okay, so you have alluded to your day job, which is being a production manager and production coordinator.
Production coordinator, production supervisor, manager. I call it production blank.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Okay. What shows are you working on?
The last gig I did was I actually worked on a Netflix show that's coming out pretty quick called Game Over Man. And that one I actually wasn't in production. I actually got to work as Blake Anderson's personal assistant, which was kind of a step away from the production blank. But I did that because I'm really interested, now that I've done a movie about a dying 4-year-old, in moving into comedy. So Blake Anderson is from Workaholics, and the 3 guys from Workaholics were the lead actors and the producers in Game Over Man, and it was also produced by Point Grey. So I basically got paid to hang out with these guys and learn about comedy and hang out with the producers from Point Grey and watch how they shot this movie and watch how Netflix works and how much they're involved and do all these kinds of things. And that was amazing. And before that, I shot a pilot, which is now a series called Wisdom of the Crowd, which
who was that through?
That was, I believe, CBS, I think. And that was amazing because as a production coordinator, you're in the production office, which some people kind of think is silly because you're like, oh, you're not on set and you're not in the middle of the action. But I love it because as a producer, I get to be in the middle of all the other producers, in the middle of the director, with all the network people, with all the executives, listening to all of the decisions they make, listening to all the phone calls they're on, and basically being like a spy and learning from their mistakes and learning from, all the things that they're up to. And they're leaning on me and looking to me for help and for, travel and hotel recommendations, but still, it's a great place to be for advice and mentorship as well. As well as, it's a good paycheck for a day job. So it's definitely something I always recommend looking into for filmmakers. Plus, when you're in the office and you're on your computer, it's not so bad that you can just answer emails for your projects and be working on things with your own stuff. So
what would you say is the main thing that you took from the day job producer jobs that you have? Not producer jobs, but production slash, you said. So what's the main thing that you took from that into being an indie producer?
Man, just be nice to people. That is the most important thing. Like treating people well, and they will continue to come back to you and work for you. And like building a relationship with the people that work around you. And, there are certain producers in Vancouver and certain, production managers in Vancouver that they have this amazing reputation and that they work really hard to continue to be fair and to be kind to people. And people will drop other shows and drop, family vacations and drop everything to come do a show with them. And those are the kind of producers that I admire and the producer that I want to be. That's, the Reese Witherspoon, that's the Elizabeth Banks, that's, the Kathleen Kennedy of the world. And that's, I think, so important right now because I think there's a huge shift coming in the kind of leaders that we're seeing. And I saw a lot when I first started out coordinating where it was a lot of yelling and screaming and this sort of like toxic masculinity, macho attitude and, bullying. And I don't think it has to be that way. I don't think you have to be a leader that yells in order to get your point across or in order to make people work harder. I think we can motivate without negative repercussions, and it's really exciting to see that changing and to be able to see the negative side of that and to be able to see the positive side of that. So that's like the biggest thing.
I've seen you talk about Kathleen Kennedy before. Would you say that she's your not your idol? I don't mean idol, but is her career kind of what you hope for yourself?
Well, I'm a huge nerd. So, that doesn't help, but
It does help. It does help. I love that you research everything.
Well, what I love about her is she, started as an assistant, and then she, wasn't afraid to always be herself, and she was that person who was the assistant, but then went out and, researched what ET's eyes should look like, and, was always going that one step ahead and worked her way up the chain to become who she is today. And I think that's really admirable. And she's definitely a leader in the industry. So she's definitely one of my idols, and she's, on my vision board, and I think that's really cool. But she's definitely one of many people that I idolize. And I think it's important to keep a list of all these amazing women that are doing great things. So
who else is on your list?
Well, I mean, what Reese Witherspoon's doing right now is really cool.
Yes.
With her company, especially with Big Little Lies. That's really cool. I really like Suzanne Todd, Amy Pascal. Who else is on there? I'm like, who is it? Lydia Dean Pilcher, I think it is. Have you ever talked to her before?
Who's that?
She has a company in New York, and they did, I can't remember the name of the movie right now. Anyways, I met her in Cannes last year. She was super inspirational. Not that I can remember the name of her movie. Obviously, it really stuck with me.
It's okay. It's okay.
Yeah.
I threw you a curveball with that.
Yeah.
I'm sure you
Oh,
could.
and there's this girl, Sophie Watts.
Uh-huh.
She is in her early 30s, and she did a $50 million deal at Cannes last year, or 2 years ago, I think it was, for a Scorsese movie.
Wow.
Like, how insane is that?
I'm impressed. Literally.
Right?
Yes. So, okay. So those are the people that are on your vision board. What project in the indie world are you working on next?
So I have a surprisingly dysfunctional summer camp series, which is very exciting.
Is that the name of it?
No, it's called Pitching Tents.
Okay.
Yeah. And then I have a feature that's a throwback to the 90s party movie, all-female comedy ensemble called Party Favor, that we just finished the Whistler Feature Project Lab, which for anyone in Canada, it's open to Canadians. They just opened their call for applications, it's a big development lab that we have in Canada, and they run for 6 months of the year. And you enter a feature, and then you get to develop your feature with them for 6 months, and they pair you up with a mentor and have you pitch to a bunch of amazing companies in Canada and the States, which was really cool. And I've got another feature about this kid who has his first big crush on a girl, and he's in high school, and he's really nerdy and awkward, and it's super cute. And he doesn't know how to talk to her, so he decides to volunteer at the old folks' home that she works at. And he befriends an old man that lives there that's kind of a player, and they decide to wingman for each other, and it's called Tyler and Walter.
That sounds cute.
Right? So I've got a bunch of projects floating around, but those are kind of the main three that we're pitching and working on right now. So
very nice. What are you doing personally outside of the film world right now that you're excited about?
Oh my God, we do things outside of the film world? What?
Theoretically. Theoretically. I have to schedule in, go somewhere, do something that has nothing to do with your job.
What?
But
this is why you have a job, right? No.
Yeah.
This is so you can go outside? Yeah.
Nothing? You're not okay, what are you watching on television that you're excited about?
I just watched the pilot for AP Bio, and that was super funny. What am I doing? Sometimes I go to a yoga class, and then halfway through, I'm like, I should really check my email.
Not how it's supposed to
No,
work.
I'm clearly a workaholic. It's fine. That's probably about it.
Okay, I'm going to task you with working on that because
I know. Yeah.
that and like maybe not arguing with the delivery guy.
Ironically, I can see the DHL van outside my window right now.
And you're like, hurry up, I gotta go get my dress.
No, that's fine. It's cool. He's just like glaring at me.
I am really excited about this Filmmaker Friday thing, or Female Filmmaker Friday. I posted early, like it was supposed to be supposed to happen on the 2nd, which is when we're recording. But then everyone posted like as soon as they heard about it, and so there was a lot of really cool photos online that made me happy. I'm like, yeah, we do this. Like, yeah, y'all act like we don't do this. We're here. We're working hard, kicking ass and taking names. That makes me happy to see all of the images that are out there about that. And I'm going to, I don't know if I'm going, but my screenplay will be at the Vancouver International Women in Film Festival.
No way! Oh my gosh, you should come. It'll be so much fun.
I believe that is true. I believe that is true. Yeah. Well, yeah.
Well, congratulations.
Thank
that is
you.
Very cool.
Thank you. I was really surprised by it. I have this policy, personal policy, where as soon as someone tells me no, like if I apply to something and I don't get it, I'm like, I literally, when I have the rejection letter in my email inbox, I'm like, I can't delete this until I apply to something else.
Oh, that's such a good idea.
And so like, I don't remember who rejected me, but I was like, okay, what can I apply to? I applied to that. So yay. Yeah.
That is so cool. Congratulations.
Thank you
That's such
very
a good
much.
festival.
I should come, right?
Oh, totally. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I'm working on it.
Totally
we'll see. So
sorry, go ahead.
No, you please.
Well, I have this policy, like I feel like everyone has their own idea about rejection, because we face a lot of rejection as, producers, writers, actors, everybody. And I feel like actors are better at handling rejection than we are a little bit, because they're constantly groomed on how to handle it. And then as producers or writers, we don't really get told how to handle it.
Mm-hmm.
So I was giving a talk the other day at a producer's workshop, and I was telling them, you face the word no a lot. And one of my mentors tells me a producer's job is to wake up at 6 a.m. and hear the word no. And I always say, when you hear the word no, you have to redefine what success means to you, because your version of success may not include that particular, funding model or festival or, award that you applied to. And if you're freaking out about not getting into that one thing, I always encourage people to look at all of the opportunities what you're working on right now has afforded you. So if it's a particular film or short or something like that, and you just got to know and you're devastated about it, I like to think about, this film has let me travel or meet really cool people or go on really awesome podcasts like this, or, learn about a certain subject, or, read great books, or get into other festivals, or every film you make is not going to be the next Sundance hit, or is not going to win a bunch of awards, or you just have to redefine what that type of success is.
Right.
And I think it's so important not to get bogged down by those no's. So I think, just learning to keep applying for more things and not stopping, and that perseverance, that's so incredible. That's so smart. That's such a good way to look at it.
Thanks.
Yeah.
And thank you. I like that idea. Like, let's just count our wins here. I like that.
Right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And it doesn't have to be the same type of win that you had in mind at first, which is, I think, what you're talking about there.
Yeah.
There was something that I wanted to go back to that you were talking about earlier. No, it's awesome. Because as you were talking about the research that you're doing for pre-selling, can you talk more about what you learned from the research?
Yeah. So my big thing when I'm pitching and when I'm talking to companies about movies that I'm trying to get off the ground, is, man, don't pitch a movie to a company that doesn't care about your movie, because it's like going to a Thai restaurant and asking for sushi. It's a lot of people don't take the time to research what's in a company's roster, because you should be really just going to their website, looking up if they have anything similar to your project, similar size in terms of budget, similar tone. You know, if they only do dramas, don't pitch them a comedy.
Right.
If they only do $10 million movies, don't pitch them your $1 million project. And really just take the time to find a company that's going to fit for your movie. And I know it takes a lot of time and a lot of research, but you're going to be better off for it. And in time, the research just starts sticking to you. And the more you pick up projects, the more you look at companies, you're going to pick up a project and you're going to automatically look at it and go, oh, well, I know these 5 companies that fit for this, because you've already done that research while looking up this other project. And yeah, maybe that company doesn't fit, you know, your buddy cop comedy or whatever, but it may fit something else down in the future. And, you know, knowing what companies don't provide MGs up front, because some distribution companies will only buy your product after it has been completed. Mm-hmm. So, and having that conversation.
MGs, what does that mean?
Minimum guarantee.
Okay.
So some companies, you can go to them at, you know, AFM or at, you know, Berlin Alley, the European film market, something like that, or, you know, call them up and have a meeting with them and say, hey, you know, I've got my movie. It's got this cast in it, and we're looking for financing to help put this project together. And they'll be like, okay, we'll give you, you know, $500,000 for your North American rights as a minimum guarantee. And we'll take, your North American rights, and you'll get, you know, whatever percentage of a split of the profits, and you'll make some sort of deal with them. And then that $500,000 will go towards your financing to help shoot the picture. And then you're like, awesome, thanks, super excited to work with you. Life is great. Sometimes you'll go talk to those companies and they'll say that they don't do that. The only thing that they do is they take your finished product and they'll buy it afterwards. Mm-hmm. And sometimes they'll buy it where they only give you a split of the profits after they've sold it and no minimum guarantee. And sometimes they'll give you a minimum guarantee. And if you don't owe anybody any money, that's just like money back in your pocket, which is great. But if you owe people money after the project is finished, then really it's money to pay back your investors. Mm-hmm. So knowing like which companies do that is helpful. And the cool thing is, producers like to talk, in case you haven't noticed, and they like to talk to each other. So you can always get references on companies. So if you have an IMDb Pro account, it's really easy to look up movies that different distribution companies have already done and look up what producers they worked with and call up or email producers and say, hey, you worked with X, Y, Z, Z, whatever films. What did you think? How did you do with them? You know, and don't ask them specifics about their deal because that's awkward, but, you know, get references on people if you're not sure about them. And, you know, don't be afraid to ask, because the worst thing people are going to say is like, no, I can't talk to you. I'm too busy. So.
Gotcha. That's helpful. So, and I guess one of my last questions for you, you said you're interested in doing comedies. Like, what is attractive about that for you?
There is a lot of scary stuff going on in the world right now, especially for women. And I think there's just more conversation happening right now. And that is super exciting for me. And comedy has the power to tell the truth and to change people's minds without them realizing it. And I think that's super exciting, because while you're laughing, you're not realizing that we're changing the world. And I think we also everybody just needs a good chance to have that cathartic moment. We could all just use a little bit of laughter now and then. So
I wholeheartedly agree. I wholeheartedly agree. I used to write really dark and moody stuff, but then in my like everyday life, like I'm always cracking jokes. I mean, I don't crack jokes. People say like, you don't tell jokes, but you're hella funny. And so I'm like, oh, maybe I should bring that into my work because instead of depressing myself with the things that I'm writing about, like bring the thing that keeps me going into the things that I'm writing. I think that's working pretty well right now, but it was a definite transition that I had to make. Like, I was like, you know, like everybody's dying, dead, killing each other. Like just stop that. Like, let's lighten it up a little bit.
Yeah.
So I feel you on that. How do people find you or find the DEVOUT and root for you and check out your dress later on?
They can find me on Twitter at Amanda Verhagen.
You should spell it.
Oh yeah. At Amanda, normal spelling for Amanda. I don't know how else you would spell that. And then Verhagen is V as in Victor, ERHAGEN. And then the DEVOUT in the States is on Google Play and Vudu and iTunes and Ubiquity. I don't know what that is, but apparently it's over there. And then in Canada, it's on iTunes and Shaw On Demand and Telus Optic TV and Google Play. So yeah, that's everything.
That is everything. Awesome. Well, thank you so super much for coming on the show and reaching out. Good luck with the Canadian Screen Awards. I looked up your competition. I think you'll be all right. I think you're going to.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate this. And I think what you're doing is so important and so incredible. And I'm so happy we got to connect.
Absolutely. Well, have an awesome, awesome rest of your day. And
you too.
Go find the guy before he runs away. The delivery guy.
Oh, man, it's going down. It's happening.
Have a good one. Take care.
You too. Bye.
You've been listening to Directing Magic with Marquette Jones. Be sure to visit directingmagic.com for past episodes and other information relating to the show. Also, be sure to subscribe and rate and comment on iTunes. Until next time, bye-bye.